What if I told you that everything you believed about progress isn't entirely true? We are used to thinking that technology only moves forward, making materials stronger, more durable, and more reliable with each passing year. However, modern cars start to rust in the garage after just 5 years, and bridges require major repairs after a few decades. At the same time, archaeologists dig Roman nails out of damp soil where they have been lying for 2,000 years, and they look as if they were forged yesterday. This seems like an impossible violation of the laws of physics and chemistry, but it is a documented fact. Roman metallurgy possessed secrets that we have lost in the pursuit of speed and cheap production. They created iron that refused to rust, built an empire, and outlived the civilization that gave birth to it. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how ancient craftsmen, without microscopes or chemical laboratories, created an eternal metal, the secret of which we are still trying to unravel. What if I told you that everything you believed in was not true? We often view ancient people as primitive craftsmen who acted at random and did not understand the essence of things. It seems to us that without Mendeleev's tables and electron microscopes, it is impossible to create a quality product. However, Roman blacksmiths created alloys whose chemical composition baffles modern metallurgists. They intuitively understood processes that we were only able to describe with formulas in the 20th century. Their iron was not just metal, it was a complex composite structure. A treasure trove was found in Scotland that overturned scientists' ideas about the capabilities of antiquity. At the Inchtil Fortress, archaeologists discovered nearly 1 million Roman nails hidden by legionnaires during their retreat. This huge cache lay in damp soil for almost 2,000 years, exposed to groundwater. According to all the laws of modern corrosion, only rusty dust should have remained in the soil. But when the boxes were opened, researchers saw clean, silvery metal under a thin crust. This discovery forced a re-examination of all textbooks on the history of metallurgy and chemistry. It turned out that Roman iron has a unique structure that protects itself from destruction. The outer layer of these items formed a dense shell that prevented oxygen from penetrating inside. This was not a coincidence or a lucky coincidence in one particular place. Similar finds occur throughout the former Roman Empire, from Britain to the Middle East. The secret lies not in magic, but in a fundamentally different approach to processing the material. Modern steel is a product of giant furnaces and mass production, where uniformity is important. Roman iron was the product of individual labor, where each blow of the hammer changed the structure of the material. It was a living craft, where the master felt the metal at his fingertips. They did not smelt ore as we understand it. They cooked it, creating something completely different. We are accustomed to taking pride in our skyscrapers and giant steel liners. However, engineers estimate the service life of these structures to be only 50-100 years. The Romans built for centuries without considering planned obsolescence or resource conservation. Their philosophy of construction implied that a building should stand forever, and metal should meet this requirement. It was a fundamentally different view of responsibility for the future. That is why studying Roman iron today is not just a matter of historical interest. It is an attempt to recover lost knowledge that could save the global economy trillions of dollars. Metal corrosion today eats away at a huge portion of global GDP every year. We spend enormous amounts of money on painting, replacing, and repairing rusting structures. Roman experience tells us that the solution to this problem was found even before our era. The difference between Roman iron and modern steel is similar to the difference between homemade bread and factory-made rolls. The ingredients seem to be the same, but the cooking process and the result are radically different. Modern metal is clean and uniform, but without special coatings, it is vulnerable to nature. Ancient metal was dirty and layered, but it was precisely this structure that made it invulnerable. We cleaned the metal of impurities and, as it turned out, deprived it of its immunity. Today, scientists are trying to reproduce Roman methods in laboratory conditions. They want to understand exactly how ancient craftsmen controlled the composition of slag inside the iron matrix. This requires sophisticated equipment to simulate what a blacksmith did in a simple furnace. We are trying to copy the result, but often miss the essence of the process. The technology was inextricably linked to the skill of a particular person. Perhaps we have gone down the wrong path by choosing quantity over quality. The Industrial Revolution gave us a lot of cheap metal, but took away its durability. We have surrounded ourselves with things that are programmed to break down and decay. Roman artifacts serve as a silent rebuke to our consumer society. I'm very interested to hear your point of view. What do you think about the quality of modern things compared to antique ones? Write about it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new investigations. Are you ready to learn the truth about how iron was actually mined? We often imagine ancient metallurgy as rivers of molten metal flowing into molds, as shown in movies. In reality, the Romans did not have the technology to bring iron to a liquid state on an industrial scale. The melting point of iron is too high for the primitive furnaces of that time. Their method was much more laborious and slow, but it produced amazing results. The process began in blast furnaces, which were far from the modern giants we know today. These furnaces were loaded with layers of charcoal and iron ore. Then air was pumped in using bellows. The temperature inside reached about 1200 degrees, which was not enough to melt the iron itself. Instead of liquid, a hot lump called matte formed at the bottom of the furnace. It was a porous, spongy mass saturated with liquid slag and unburned coal. This sponge was far from the shiny metal we are used to seeing. It was dirty, full of impurities, and required a tremendous amount of work to turn it into a useful material. The crucible was taken out of the furnace and began to be hammered long and hard with heavy hammers. With each blow, sparks of liquid slag flew out of the red-hot sponge, and the pores of the metal contracted. It was this process of mechanical compaction that played a key role in the quality of the future product. The blacksmiths literally squeezed the excess vitreous substance out of the metal, like water from a wet cloth, but it was impossible to completely remove the slag, and it remained inside in the form of the finest fibers. These microscopic threads permeated the entire piece of iron, creating a unique fibrous structure. Modern steel has a crystal lattice that is uniform in all directions. Roman wrought iron was more like wood with its fibers and annual rings. Along the fibers, the metal was incredibly strong, but across them, it could be more brittle. Craftsmen knew about this feature and used it when forging tools and weapons. They arranged the fibers so that the product could withstand maximum loads. Repeated hammering not only compacted the metal but also carbonized its surface. The coal from the furnace reacted with the iron, turning the soft metal into hard steel. The Romans knew how to create tools with a soft, ductile core and a hard cutting edge. This made their swords and chisels resistant to impact and breakage. This method required a huge amount of fuel and manpower. To obtain a kilogram of high-quality iron, it was necessary to burn cubic meters of wood and spend hours forging. Therefore, every nail and every bracket was highly valued and made with care. Mass production in the Roman sense still remained manual labor. Interestingly, different regions of the empire supplied iron with different properties. Ore from Noricum, for example, contained natural manganese impurities, which made the steel excellent. The Romans empirically found the best deposits and valued metal from certain provinces. They did not know chemistry, but they were well versed in the final quality of the product. The absence of a liquid phase in the production process saved the metal from saturation with harmful gases. Modern steel eagerly absorbs nitrogen and hydrogen from the atmosphere during smelting, which can make it brittle. Crude iron remained chemically pure from gas impurities, retaining its natural viscosity. This is one of the factors explaining its amazing preservation. Thus, technological limitations played into the hands of ancient craftsmen. The inability to melt metal forced them to invent a processing method that gave the material unique properties. They worked in harmony with the nature of the material, rather than trying to break it down. Did you know that it was these impurities that became the main shield of Roman iron? Want to know a secret that will change your life and your perception of material purity? In today's world, we are obsessed with purifying everything: water, air, and, of course, metals. We believe that any impurities are evil, weakening the structure and leading to defects. However, Roman iron proves that sometimes dirt can be more useful than perfect purity. What we now call slag and throw away as waste was the elixir of immortality for Roman metal. I discovered this by accident while studying micrographs of ancient nails under high magnification. Instead of a boring gray surface, I saw a complex pattern resembling geological layers. These were the very inclusions of silicate slag that remained in the metal after forging. They were not chaotic spots, but stretched into long, longitudinal threads along the entire product. These glass threads act as internal barriers to corrosion. Rust is a process that requires a path to spread deep into the metal. In modern homogeneous metal, corrosion spreads across a wide front, encountering no obstacles. In Roman iron, rust encounters an insurmountable wall of chemically inert glass. Slag is essentially a complex silicate, similar to natural stone or glass. It does not react with water, oxygen, or salts dissolved in the soil. When corrosion reaches the slag layer, it is forced to stop or find detours. This turns the process of nail destruction from a straight path into a complex maze. Imagine this metal as a puff pastry or a stack of paper soaked in glue. Even if the top sheet is damaged, the following layers remain safe under reliable protection. Modern steel is more like a sugar cube that dissolves evenly on all sides. Roman metal is mechanically divided into thousands of microscopic, isolated fibers. This is why archaeologists often find objects that are heavily corroded on the outside, but have retained a solid core. The outer layers took the brunt of the impact, turning into a protective crust. This crust, mixed with particles of soil and oxides, becomes as hard as stone. It preserves the inside of the object for millennia. The amount of slag in Roman iron could reach several percent of the total volume. For a modern metallurgist, this is a glaring defect that no quality control department would overlook. But it was precisely this defect that made it possible to forge colossal chains for anchors and staples for bridges. These inclusions gave the metal the properties of a composite material, dampening vibrations and cracks. We spent centuries learning how to remove slag from steel. We built converters and refining furnaces to achieve perfect purity. And now we are forced to invent complex paints and galvanic coatings to protect that purity. The ancient Romans got protection for free as a byproduct of their imperfect process. This makes us wonder whether, in our pursuit of technological perfection, we sometimes lose sight of simple and effective solutions. Nature rarely creates monolithic and homogeneous materials. It prefers structures and layers. Roman iron was closer to natural materials such as wood or bone. It was an organic continuation of the geology from which it was extracted. This lesson of useful contamination can also be applied to modern materials. Engineers are once again beginning to experiment with composites and layered structures. Perhaps the future of metallurgy lies in a return to the principles of the past on a new level. If you enjoy learning such unexpected facts about history, be sure to like this video. What if I showed you a time machine hidden in the periodic table? Among all the elements that affect the quality of iron, phosphorus occupies a special place. In modern metallurgy, phosphorus is considered a harmful impurity that makes steel brittle in the cold. It is diligently removed, consuming enormous resources and energy. But for Roman iron, phosphorus became a guardian angel, providing it with incredible durability. Ancient iron ore deposits were often rich in phosphorus. Since the Romans could not chemically separate the elements, phosphorus was completely incorporated into the metal. During the forging process, it did not burn out, but concentrated in the structure of the iron bloom. This led to the creation of a unique alloy that we now call phosphorus iron. Phosphorus has the amazing property of slowing down the oxidation of iron. It acts as a corrosion inhibitor, suppressing the activity of oxygen on the metal surface. When a Roman nail begins to rust, phosphorus promotes the formation of a special film. This film is not loose and crumbly like ordinary rust, but dense and dark. This protective layer adheres firmly to the base and prevents moisture from penetrating further. In essence, the product passivates itself, creating a sealed shell. This is very similar to how aluminum protects itself with an instant oxide film. Only in the case of iron, this requires the presence of phosphorus in a certain concentration. The famous iron pillar in Delhi, which has not rusted for 1,600 years, owes its condition to phosphorus. Although it is located in India, the technology used to manufacture it is very similar to Roman iron metallurgy. Analysis has shown that its phosphorus content exceeds modern standards by several times. Roman artifacts demonstrate the same chemical protection mechanism. Blacksmiths of that time did not know what phosphorus was, but they saw the difference in the behavior of the metal. They noticed that iron from certain mines was less susceptible to rust and lasted longer. Through trial and error, they selected the ores that gave the most durable results. It was a selection based on intuition and centuries of experience. In addition to protecting against corrosion, phosphorus slightly increased the hardness of iron, although it made it less flexible. For nails, staples, and construction ties, this was an acceptable compromise. The main thing was that these structural elements could remain in damp masonry for decades without deteriorating. The buildings stood strong because their framework did not rot from the inside. Modern steel, purified of phosphorus, lacks this natural chemical protection. We replaced it with chromium and nickel alloying, resulting in expensive stainless steel. But for mass construction, we use ordinary steel, which is defenseless against nature. The Roman solution was more elegant, to use what was already in the ore. It turns out that primitive technology allowed us to preserve useful elements that we now consider waste. We have become too good at separating substances, but we have forgotten how to use their synergy. Phosphorus in Roman iron is an example of how a lack of knowledge was compensated for by observing nature. The irony is that we are trying to fight what saved ancient monuments. We remove natural protectors in order to apply artificial ones. Perhaps we should reconsider our attitude towards harmful impurities. Have you ever wondered why modern cars are so afraid of ordinary road salt? In Roman architecture, iron played the role of a hidden skeleton holding huge stone blocks together. The Colosseum, aqueducts, temples. All these majestic structures are held together not only by gravity, but also by iron brackets. However, simply inserting iron into stone was not enough, because stone allows moisture to pass through. Roman engineers came up with an ingenious way to seal the metal, protecting it from contact with water and air. Each iron bracket connecting the blocks was filled with molten lead. Builders hollowed out a groove in the stone, inserted an iron element into it, and filled the empty space with liquid metal. Lead, being soft and low melting, filled the smallest cracks and pores in the stone. It tightly enveloped the iron, creating a sealed cocoon impervious to the external environment. Lead also acted as a damper, absorbing vibrations and thermal expansion. Stone and iron react differently to heating and cooling, which could lead to the destruction of the masonry. The soft lead layer compensated for these movements, preventing the blocks from cracking. This allowed buildings to stand for centuries despite earthquakes and temperature changes. In addition, lead is chemically inert and does not react with iron. It created an ideal conservation environment in which the iron was as if in a vacuum. Even if water seeped through the joints of the masonry, it encountered a lead barrier in its path. The iron remained dry and undamaged at the heart of the stone structure. This technology required a huge amount of lead, which was a byproduct of silver mining. The Roman economy produced lead on an industrial scale, which made this method affordable for large projects. We often talk about Roman concrete, but we forget about the role of lead in the durability of their architecture. Unfortunately, it was this technology that caused the destruction of many monuments in the Middle Ages. People pried iron staples and lead out of the walls of the Colosseum to melt them down for weapons. The huge holes in the walls of ancient buildings are traces of the work of looters searching for valuable metal. If it weren't for the barbaric looting, many ruins would have been much better preserved. The combination of iron, stone, and lead was the pinnacle of engineering thought at the time. It was a comprehensive approach to protecting materials, taking into account their physical and chemical properties. The Romans did not just build, they designed a system capable of withstanding the test of time. In modern construction, we use chemical anchors and polymer-based sealants, but polymers age, crack, and lose their properties after a few decades. Lead, on the other hand, remains unchanged for millennia without losing its plasticity and protective properties. This example shows how deeply the Romans understood the interaction of different materials. They were not afraid to combine metals to create reliable and durable joints. Their engineering was based on the logic of protecting the weakest link. Lead filling is a simple but incredibly effective method of preservation. It transformed a vulnerable iron into an eternal structural element. This is another brick in the foundation of the durability of Roman civilization. Are you ready for the shocking truth about why things are no longer made to last? The secret of Roman durability lies not only in chemistry and physics, but also in the economics of the time. In ancient Rome, iron was an expensive resource, the extraction and processing of which required enormous effort. Therefore, the creation of any iron object was considered an investment for many years, or even generations. No one in their right mind would make a nail that would rust away in a year. It would be a senseless waste of valuable metal and human labor. Things were passed down from father to son, repaired, reforged, but never thrown away just like that. The high cost of the material dictated high demands on its quality and service life. The Industrial Revolution turned this logic upside down, making metal cheap and accessible. The advent of blast furnaces and rolling mills made it possible to produce millions of tons of steel. The price of metal fell, and with it, the value of each individual product in the eyes of the consumer. We entered the era of disposable items, where it is easier to buy new than to repair old. It became unprofitable for manufacturers to make products that last forever. If your car or refrigerator doesn't break down after a certain amount of time, you won't come back for a new one. The concept of planned obsolescence was born, where engineers deliberately calculate the lifespan of parts. Corrosion became an ally of the economy, stimulating demand for new metal structures. A Roman blacksmith worked for his reputation in a small community where everyone knew the craftsman. A modern factory works for a faceless global market where minimum cost is important. High-quality wrought iron cannot be produced in the volumes required by modern civilization. We have sacrificed durability for mass production and affordability. In addition, modern scrap metal is a hellish mixture of different alloys. When old cars are melted down into steel, copper from the wiring gets into the steel, which cannot be removed during the normal process. The accumulation of copper in steel with each melting cycle degrades its quality and increases its susceptibility to corrosion. We contaminate our metal not with useful slag, but with harmful elements. The Romans used primary ore, which guaranteed the purity of the raw material from technological waste. They did not have the problem of dirty scrap metal poisoning new batches of metal. Each production cycle began with a clean slate created by nature. We live in a world where the speed of turnover of goods is more important than their physical preservation. Our bridges and buildings are built with rapid depreciation and replacement in mind. This is economically efficient in the short term, but disastrous in the long run. We are leaving future archaeologists mountains of rusty rubbish instead of great monuments. The paradox is that technologically we can make a rust-proof car or an eternal bridge. But such a thing would be too expensive and would collapse the sales market. The Roman model of production was sustainable but slow. Our model is fast but destructive. The difference in mentality determines the difference in materials. The Romans built for eternity, we build for the current financial quarter. Do you think we are capable of returning to a philosophy of quality, or are we doomed to live in a world of disposable things? The environment in which Roman artifacts existed was so different that direct comparisons with the present day often mislead us. We are accustomed to analyzing ancient metal and concrete as if they had survived 2,000 years in conditions similar to today's. But this is a fundamental mistake. The chemical composition of the air, water, and soil then and now are like two different planets. If Roman objects had been transported to the 21st century immediately after manufacture, many of them would have deteriorated much faster than we tend to think. We have created an atmosphere that behaves like a giant chemical laboratory, constantly attacking our materials. The Romans lived in an era when the air was truly alive, not saturated with combustion products. There were no millions of cars, factories, oil refineries, or thermal power plants. There were no invisible but deadly aggressive sulfur and nitrogen oxides, which, when combined with moisture, turn into weak but destructive acids. Modern civilization has created acid rain, a phenomenon that the ancients never suspected. These rains corrode metal, stone, and concrete at a rate that would have seemed unimaginable to Roman blacksmiths. Roman iron existed in a much more forgiving ecosystem. Corrosion existed then, of course, but its pace was slow, almost meditative. Steel had time to develop a patina, forming a protective barrier that stabilized the oxidation process. It was a natural balance that is virtually impossible to reproduce today. Modern iron is not confronted with a sky full of clean air, but with an atmosphere saturated with aggressive reagents that accelerate destruction many times over. The metal simply does not have time to mature and acquire its protective shell. Add to this the factor of winter roads. Today, cities and highways are sprinkled with tons of salt and chemical reagents. This salt aerosol is the most terrible killer of metal. Chlorides penetrate deeper than all natural agents, destroying oxide films and causing corrosion to work not from the outside, but from the inside, where the metal is completely defenseless. Cars, bridges, fences, supports, all of these live under conditions of constant chemical attack. Every winter is a micro-war that modern metal often loses. Ancient iron, if it were on a modern highway, would not last even a tenth of the time it lived in its familiar antiquity. Nevertheless, even in its own environment, Roman metal demonstrated remarkable durability. Finds from the marine environment are particularly impressive. Piers, breakwaters, and mooring structures sometimes preserve iron elements covered with multi-layered concretions, natural mineralized shells. Seawater itself built a protective barrier, encasing the metal in a strong cocoon of limestone deposits and colonies of microorganisms. Where modern metal turns into rusty crumbs in a matter of years, Roman specimens are capable of surviving for centuries. Even more indicative is their concrete. Without knowing it, the Romans created a material that not only resisted time, but became stronger as it aged. Their concrete, based on pozzolan additives, interacted with seawater, forming new minerals that compacted the structure. The metal embedded inside did not suffer from alkaline corrosion, as is the case with modern reinforcement. It was a harmonious union of stone and iron, where both materials served each other rather than destroying each other. Modern concrete is only as strong on paper. In reality, it is prone to microcracks, through which water penetrates to the steel reinforcement. The steel rusts, increases in volume, and breaks the concrete from the inside. This is a hidden disease of most buildings and bridges of the 21st century. The Romans, thanks to different chemistry and a different philosophy of construction, avoided this minefield. All this brings us to an important understanding. We have created an environment that is hostile to the very materials with which we build our civilization. Urban air has become so saturated with aggressive compounds that any structure ages faster than calculations allow. We ourselves have made entropy stronger. Our bridges, roads, and buildings battle acids, salts, hydrocarbons, microorganisms, moisture, and temperature shocks on a daily basis. And this is not a death sentence for ancient artifacts. Under certain conditions, they are preserved perfectly. Peat bogs, for example, create an oxygen-free environment that is ideal for preserving metal, wood, leather, and textiles. Many Roman finds have survived the centuries only because they were buried in these natural time banks. There, corrosion almost stops, and organic matter seems to fall asleep. Therefore, comparing Roman iron and modern steel without taking the environment into account is not a comparison of materials, but of worlds. The ancients worked in conditions that were easy by our standards. We, on the other hand, have taken the load to a completely different level, putting ourselves in maximum difficulty mode. And yet, even against this backdrop, the durability of Roman structures commands respect and amazement. Ecology and material science have always gone hand in hand. And until we change the chemistry of the world, no eternal material will be able to work forever. We have created a ring of chemical aggression, which we ourselves are trying to destroy with technological innovations. It is a vicious circle, and no one has yet managed to break it. Heat treatment was another trick up the sleeves of Roman blacksmiths. They didn't just forge iron, they knew how to change its structure by heating and cooling it. Although they didn't understand the molecular physics of the process, experience told them the right settings. Hardening made the surface hard while leaving the core ductile. The Romans used various media to cool the metal: oil, water, and even animal urine. Each liquid had its own heat transfer rate, which affected the final properties of the steel. Organic liquids could additionally saturate the surface with nitrogen during hardening. This created a durable nitride layer that protected against corrosion and wear. There is evidence that the Romans used a cementation technique. They packed iron products in boxes with coal powder, leather, and horns, and then heated them for a long time. Carbon and nitrogen from the organic matter diffused into the metal surface. The result was a part with a hard, wear-resistant body, similar to modern case-hardened steel. This surface treatment also closed the micropores through which rust could penetrate. A smooth, polished, and hardened surface is much more resistant to oxidation. Roman legionaries spent hours cleaning and polishing their weapons. This was not just discipline, but a vital procedure for metal care. The mixture of oil and ash rubbed into the armor created a greasy film that repelled water. Constant care and proper initial treatment worked in tandem. The culture of handling weapons and tools was at the highest level. Soldiers knew that their lives depended on the condition of their swords. Today, we rely on electroplating and paint, forgetting about structural protection. Factory hardening is often thorough, which makes the part brittle, or we use raw metal, relying on a layer of zinc. The Roman approach was more individual and subtle. Blacksmiths passed on the secrets of hardening orally, from master to apprentice. Many nuances, such as the color of the heat or the sound of the metal, cannot be written down on paper. With the fall of the empire, this continuous chain of knowledge transfer was broken. We are reviving these methods, but the soul of the craft has been lost. Interestingly, some of the superstitions of ancient blacksmiths had a scientific basis. For example, quenching in blood could actually work better due to its protein and salt content. Magic and science were intertwined in a single technological process. The ability to control heat was the main art of the ancient world. Without thermometers and pyrometers, they achieved amazing accuracy. The master's eye was more accurate than any instrument. Tempering was the final chord in the symphony of Roman iron production. It cemented all the properties that had been laid down during the ore selection and forging stages. It was the finishing touch that made the metal legendary. It would seem that with our level of science, automation, and data availability, we should not only be able to replicate the Romans, we should be able to leave their achievements far behind. We live in an age of lasers, supercomputers, nanotechnology, and robotic factories. What could be easier than taking an old recipe for a successful material and producing it on an industrial scale? But as soon as we try to transfer wrought iron into the context of the modern economy, engineering, and ecology, it becomes clear that ancient technologies are wonderful in their niche, but they don't work at all in our world, where standardization, speed, scale, and cost are important. Producing 1 ton of Roman iron requires an enormous amount of labor. That's thousands and thousands of man-hours of manual, heavy, and slow work. Each batch of iron had to be smelted in a small bloomery furnace, then repeatedly hammered, squeezing out the slag, compacting the structure, and creating layers. It is an art, a craft, a slow and truly living process. Today's metallurgical plant is the complete opposite. It produces thousands of tons of steel per hour, operating with virtually no human involvement. The production cycle has been optimized to the limit. Returning to blast furnace technology would not simply be a step backward, it would be economic collapse. The cost of metal would skyrocket hundreds or thousands of times, and buildings and bridges would become luxury items, inaccessible to anyone but governments and the super rich. But the problem is not just labor costs. We have already depleted the unique deposits of rich, pure, easily smelted ores that ancient metallurgists used. Back then, the ore was literally underfoot. High-quality brown iron ore, bog ore, attractive in terms of chemical composition. Today, we extract ores with a much lower iron content and a large amount of impurities. To turn such ore into metal, entire enrichment plants, chemical processes, and a huge amount of energy are needed. The natural purity of ancient resources is a thing of the past, and even the most modern technologies cannot change that. Environmental standards also put an end to attempts to return to the old methods. Raw metallurgy used huge amounts of charcoal, which meant massive deforestation. Open mines emitted everything possible into the atmosphere, from carbon monoxide to soot particles. Back then, the planet could easily cope with this, but today, in conditions of overpopulation and industrialization, such technology would be an ecological disaster. We ourselves introduced clean production standards, and now we must comply with them. The paradox is that Roman metal was dirty in the best sense of the word, while our clean technologies sometimes prevent us from creating such materials. We are hostages to our own environmental principles. The requirements for the materials themselves have also changed. Roman iron worked perfectly in compression structures, under static loads, and in moderate temperatures. But imagine it in a jet engine. a high-speed train, a spacecraft, or even just a modern elevator? It cannot withstand the combination of high temperatures, dynamic loads, acceleration, vibrations, and aggressive environments. We live in an era where we need super strong, super ductile, heat-resistant, and chemically stable alloys. Ancient metal was outstanding, but it was tailored to its world, not ours. In addition, Roman iron was extremely heterogeneous. It consisted of layers interspersed with slag inclusions. For ancient craftsmen, this was the norm, part of the process. But for modern engineers, such variability is a nightmare. Standardization is the main principle of modern industry. Every I-beam, every sheet of steel, must have predictable characteristics recorded in GOST and ISO standards. You cannot build a skyscraper or a bridge from a material whose properties change from centimeter to centimeter. Modern construction is mathematics, while Roman iron is art. These two worlds do not mix well. That is why humanity has chosen the path of specialization. We do not try to create one ideal material for all tasks. We create hundreds of specialized alloys and composites. We have titanium alloys for aviation, stainless steel for aggressive environments, high-carbon steels for tools, aluminum alloys for transportation, and composites for space. We have chosen the path of diversity, while the Romans perfected a single material, adapting it to the widest possible range of tasks. And yet in one area, we are indeed returning to the past, in restoration. When it comes to repairing an ancient temple, an old bridge, or a historic fortress, modern materials can be harmful. They are too rigid, too reactive, and corrode too quickly. Restorers are forced to master forgotten methods. Smelting pig iron, forging by hand, working as slowly and carefully as their colleagues did 2,000 years ago. Sometimes only ancient technology can preserve an ancient structure. Paradoxically, ancient principles inspire us to develop new ones. Corten steel, for example, rusts only on the outside, forming a stable protective layer. Essentially a modern version of the same idea that was used in wrought iron. We do not copy the Romans literally, but their approaches live on in new materials. So it's not that we can't replicate ancient metallurgy. We can, and sometimes we do. The question is one of expediency. Roman iron was the ideal material for its time, its world, and its tasks. Our world requires something else. Materials capable of surviving extreme loads in the chemically aggressive environment we ourselves have created. Our goal is to find our own eternal material that meets the challenges of the 21st century, just as Roman iron met the challenges of its era. The history of Roman iron is not just a story about nails and staples. It is a philosophy of man's relationship with the material world. The Romans taught us that eternity is built on attention to detail and respect for materials. They did not rush, and that is why their creations have survived for millennia. We have learned that purity does not always mean quality, and speed does not always mean progress. Slag, phosphorus, multi-layered structure, all these flaws turned out to be the secret ingredients of longevity. Nature often suggests solutions to those who know how to observe and listen. The modern world has given us comfort and accessibility, but it has taken away our sense of reliability. We live among temporary things, creating a temporary culture. Perhaps we should sometimes look back to remember how to build for the ages. Roman iron stands in museums as a silent witness to the greatness of human labor. It reminds us that the hands of a master can create something that is beyond the power of time. Even the most advanced science must sometimes bow its head to the wisdom of ancient craftsmen. We will not return to forges with hammers, but we can adopt the very principle of responsibility for what we create. Making something that will serve our grandchildren is a worthy goal for any manufacturer. And perhaps someday our descendants will find our smartphones and marvel at their perfection. History is cyclical, and old technologies sometimes return in a new guise. Biomimetics, composites, nanostructures, these are all attempts to recreate the complexity of nature, which the Romans sensed intuitively. The circle is complete, and we are once again seeking harmony with materials. Let the rust on an old fence remind you not of the transience of life, but of the complexity of engineering challenges. The fight against corrosion is man's eternal battle with entropy, and in this battle, we have much to learn from the legionnaires and blacksmiths of Rome. Take care of your belongings, appreciate quality, and remember history. After all, the future is built on the solid foundation of the past. The Roman nail, which outlived the empire, proved this with its very existence. This concludes our journey into the world of ancient metallurgy. I hope you will take a fresh look at the ordinary iron objects around you. We have come a long way from blast furnaces to modern laboratories in our quest to unravel the mystery of Roman iron. We have seen how dirty impurities became a shield, and primitive forging gave birth to an eternal structure. This knowledge makes us more modest in assessing our own achievements. The ancient world still holds many secrets that we have yet to discover. If you like this episode, write in the comments what other lost technologies of antiquity you would like to learn about. Perhaps Roman concrete or the secrets of Egyptian builders? Your ideas will form the basis for future scripts. And of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the bell so you don't miss any new videos. See you soon.